Hi, everybody there on Andy's Popcorn Planet. I can only say thank you from the very recesses of my being for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I did it again.
Oh my goodness, he did it again, and it looks like Amber may have done it again. She's going to have some regrets on that statement she did. Guys, so happy to be with you here live. We got a special guest, and I don't want to delay too much longer. So happy to have Daniel back, the black belt barrister. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. It's been too long. We got to talk this morning about Elon Musk. Watch our thoughts on Elon Musk quitting Twitter. If you missed that video, we did that this morning. But I want to get to this story. My goodness, I've been wondering about this for a while, and there's no better expert out there than the barrister himself from the UK to talk about this appeal with you. Now, what's the most frustrating thing before there is something Daniel has discovered that I think is pretty important for us to go through that could affect, the odds of an appeal for Johnny in the UK verdict. And what was just so unreal was just, obviously we've gone through it a lot, Amber's statement. But they're just trying to make this seem like the whole case was appealed. Daniel, this was just really annoying me. The media, all the headlines, all like, I've settled the defamation case. No, you didn't. You settled the judgment is what actually happened. But a lot of the media and everyone else is jumping on this to sort of make it seem like she just, it's all settled. Both of them sorted it out. It's over. I mean, from the UK perspective, I don't know how the media has covered it, but are you seeing that happen over there as well? Or is this, are they leaning more towards
it seems to be, I think there's a mix of just the way it's reported as against potentially deliberately muddying the waters a little bit. I don't know. But ultimately, often when these things are reported, they talk about it being a settlement of sorts. Well, it's only a settlement in a sense that they're not pursuing the appeal. So when people, I've shared the same frustration as you from when I saw your video yesterday. So I think when people hear the word settlement and they hear it reported like that, they think somehow that the whole case has been settled, as you put it yesterday. And that's not the case. The jury verdict stands, which is what I've said in my videos. The jury verdict stands. What, if anything, they've settled is to not pursue and fight the appeal. Now, anyone can make any number of guesses as to why that is. Now, I'm always quick to say that you can't just make assumptions that a settlement it implies guilt or whatever, but it is always about risk. Now there's always a risk in following something through, and it's often much less risky to settle it. So that's clearly, to some degree at least, that's what's happened here. But yeah, I share the frustration. It's not the entire case that's settled. It is just not pursuing the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, the vibe I get, and we went through this, if you missed my video documenting all the highlighting all the errors and lies that she put in there, make sure to share that one. It's the most important one I think I did this week, just to make sure more people are equipped with the truth on it all. But it almost really felt like, to me, this is all clearly Amber's PR team and planned from the beginning. I'm curious, your perspective as a barrister. Do you think her lawyers and everybody sort of had this always in the back of their mind of, oh yeah, we're going to settle this. We're going to settle this. Let's use this process to help you from a PR perspective.
It must be, because if we take these sort of cases, these are obviously high profile cases. These are obviously very different to a quiet dispute between two parties that goes to court in some part of the England and Wales that no one really hears about. That's different. That's just a monetary claim. It's a settlement of damages. Here, you've clearly got reputations at stake. So there is always a PR machine working within the legal process, even to some extent for the insurance companies, because the insurance companies will naturally come to the surface of these things as well. So they know that their names will come to the forefront as well. So there must be at least somebody in charge of what's going on with the PR aspects in respect of the insurance companies. So whenever these things come to the forefront, they will look into how it's portrayed, how it's perceived, and inferences, assumptions made, and these are fairly specific terms here, but these always happen at the forefront. And so whatever they put out, however they phrase it, there's got to be, it's got to be within the rules and within the law, but at the same time giving people an impression. And I'm convinced that a lot of that is deliberate, such as the wording of the settlement of the case. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, that it's somewhat misleading, because the case hasn't settled. It's only for the appeal.
Right, and the judgment of what they owe each other, right? It's like ultimately Johnny doesn't have to pay her now, and Amber doesn't have to pay him 10 million. She never had 10 million. I think a lot of fans out there of Johnny are like, how dare you settle this? But the reality is he was never going to see $10 million. There was a limit on what the insurance company could even give as well. Amber doesn't have the money. So I think this was a great move, just sort of cement it and move on. But I'm frustrated by the media and Amber's ability to sort of use this as they settled. I settled the case. No. This was not a mutual settlement. The jury found her guilty. She is guilty of defaming Johnny Depp. That still stands. Now, let's get to the main issue here, because obviously we've talked in great depth. If you guys haven't already, I want to make sure I'm even plugging them before we get to this main issue. Go follow Black Belt Barrister. He does great content and commentary analysis over on YouTube as well. And he did a lot of really fantastic coverage of the UK trial, which now Amber and others supporting Amber always use as sort of the excuse as to why this should have never happened in the first place. The UK justice decided that she was telling the truth, and therefore all this should be thrown out. But the problem with that is when they did that case, Johnny was never allowed to cross-examine. There was a lot of stuff. She was a third-party witness, and the reality is it wasn't against her. It was against the Sun, a tabloid newspaper. They weren't the same case at all. And Amber always likes to pick and choose the things that she wants to use to her advantage. Now, what's interesting is she keeps using this, right? She keeps putting this out there, the UK case. That's really what it is. And then there was a statement in here, and I like to share mine with the notes just so we have people can, if they're reading it, they're not just reading it blind, but we're looking at the left side, Amber's portion. When I took before a judge in the UK, I was vindicated by a robust, impartial, and fair system, where I was protected from having to give the worst moments of my testimony in front of the world's media, and where the court found that I was subjected to DSV in the US. Blah, 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 and she goes into how she exhausted her resources. Now, the first lie I already cut out, and correct me if I'm wrong, the UK judge actually did not agree that she suffered from SV. That was one of the things that he didn't rule in her favor, correct? So
and
right out
also,
the gate, she's lying.
Go on.
Well, yeah, right out the gate, she's lying, and then I want to go to you about what is your reaction to this idea that she was vindicated by this impartial affair? Before we get to the protection, which you brought something to do, how do you feel about her saying that she was vindicated by the robust and impartial fair system?
Well, yeah, no, I don't agree. That's not what was found, and there was a whole lot of material which was hidden from public view as well. But no, I don't agree with that as a statement. And vindicated suggests that there's absolutely no wrongdoing whatsoever. And again, I don't agree with that as well. There were a lot of credibility issues throughout that trial, which I've covered in great detail in some of my early videos. So no, as a statement, again, I don't agree with that.
Now, you say there's something she says here that's potentially going to put her in trouble, basically screwing her own self in her own words, because she can't stop defending and playing the victim. What is it about this? I was protected from having to give the moments.
Well, it's the very next bit that you've not highlighted here. She says, where I was protected. No, sorry, go back.
Yeah, right here, sorry.
She says, where I was protected. So reading from the top paragraph here, where I was protected from having to give the worst moments of my testimony. Now, if we take that in isolation, I was protected from having to give the worst moments of my testimony. And now I don't know if you have that other screenshot I sent you, which was, it's a part of the original UK, the lower court, which is the high court, but the lower court judgment in the UK. Here we go, paragraph 576. Now, what this was, for those that either don't remember or didn't know in the first place, because she was not a party to this case in the UK, in England and Wales, because she was not a party to it, she was neither the claimant nor the defendant. She was a third party, albeit it was effectively all about her and Johnny Depp, but she was not a party to it. What that means is she was not subject to the same, and it's just highlighted on one of these lines here, she was not subject to the same third party she was subject to the third party disclosure rule. So she was not subject to the same disclosure rules as a party to the case. So she had no obligation to provide all of the same disclosure that she would have if she were a party. Now, there was an application, and I've highlighted here, is Johnny Depp's application was unsuccessful. So when she says she was protected from having to give that testimony, that really goes against her, because in my view, that is her admitting publicly that she was protected from giving effectively all of the information. So that's a contradiction there. While she says she was vindicated by a robust, impartial, and fair system, however, she was protected from having given the worst moments of the testimony. Well, that's not robust, impartial, or fair if she's protected from having to give the worst parts of it. And so because she wasn't a party to that case, and she was, in the judge's words, able to give the evidence that she chose and at times that she chose to give it, that to me is not a robust, impartial, and fair system. So in producing this statement, and in my view, I think this has at least been helped by lawyers, if not completely scripted by lawyers. But I think they've overlooked that, because I think that really goes against her. Now, surely, as a tangent, a lot of people will think, well, what about the UK trial and the petition to overturn it and so on? Now, as that tangent, I think this will play a part, because now that the appeal is done in the US, done in a sense, whether they settled it, whether she fought it and lost it, whatever, it's done. There's no more now. It's done. Now, with that out of the way, and there was no overturn of the jury verdict. The jury verdict stands, coupled with statements like this, where in her words, and it is her words because she put it out, whether it's drafted by law or not, she's put her name to it. It's her words. She says she was protected from having to give the worst moments of the testimony. To me, that's an admission that she knows that there was material that would have gone against her that she didn't bring into the UK trial. That's my view on reading on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge tell and a huge reveal as he's even proving here. And yeah, that's the problem is Johnny had no right, had no opportunity to question her and do all the things that he should have been able to have. So much was kept confidential. They didn't even have they were trying to get all the documentation from the charities that, well, at least the Children's Hospital and the ACLU to even prove. And the justice was even like, yeah, she can't be a gold digger if she was giving to charity, which she didn't even give to charity. There were so many opportunities and things that he could have done to prove her, but he couldn't even get the data. And then when he went after the appeal in the UK, he just was like, nope, none of that's going to matter. Sorry, I'm done. And then didn't he retire pretty much immediately after that case as well, which is very weird.
And there's a lot of speculation. I mean, as a barrister, I won't jump into speculation and theories and things. There are lots of theories and there are lots of speculations, and they may or may not be true. That's not my place to say.
Not his place, but it is my place. Yes, there was even a whole relationship with his son working for Rupert Murdoch. If you go down those rabbit holes, now again, this is speculation warning. Yeah. What can we say? But I do think it gives people fair pause. And when all this stuff is there, that Judge Nichols' son was working for a sister company owned by that. Now that could just be a coincidence. Honestly, it could. Yeah. But there's just a lot of stuff there where it's like when then you see Amber saying, I was completely vindicated by a robust and impartial and fair system. Bullshit. Bullshit. This was not a fair system in this instance. And we have barristers out there even acknowledging that they don't agree with this verdict. What is the next step that you said I need to get it back up here. Is the change.org petition still up? Can people still sign, Daniel?
It is still up. People can still sign. I was hoping for a nice big round number of 100,000 signatures, and also in part waiting for this appeal to be dusted, which it is now. Albeit on a settlement, it matters not. The appeal is done. Providing it's all signed, sealed, delivered, and all the rest of it. There is no further step. There is no overturning the jury verdict. The jury ruled unanimously, and that stands. So to me, every word written in this appeal. I'm reading appeal on here. Reopen the appeal. This petition. Every word stands in that there are now two completely incompatible judgments, verdicts in these two cases. They were different defendants, they were different parties, but ultimately the underlying facts of dispute were essentially the same. And these two, despite being different parties, these two are not compatible. And I'll tell you what I think for anyone that is interested in those conspiracy theories. As I said, I'm not going to feed into conspiracy theories. What I would say, what I think is more valuable is if the learned judge were not retired and were asked about this now, I believe that as a judge, looking at things on the balance of probabilities, I think a judge would say, well, on the balance of probabilities, having had her as the actual opponent in the US trial and with a unanimous jury verdict against her, on the balance of probabilities, that sort of throws this decision, away, because again, all of the underlying story is the same, albeit it's a different defendant, but it was the defendant writing about ultimately the same story underneath it. So I think that is stronger than chasing conspiracy theories. I think if you were to look at this impartially and objectively and say, what would a judge say about these two completely incompatible results? And that's what I think a judge would say, that they are not compatible and that the latter one should stand. Just because there is, and people forget this, just because there is a verdict, a judgment in one case, it doesn't mean that that stands forever, because obviously judgment gets appealed sometimes, and there was narrow circumstances in which case this one had permission to appeal refused. But that's not to say that there can't be another request for it to be reopened, and on a different basis. And one of those bases under the rules is that it's to avoid an unjust outcome. Now, the rules don't say that the court can't reopen of its own motion. It can. It would ordinarily be Depp's team, but there we go. These judgments can be overturned. They can be appealed, and a judgment doesn't stand forever because other things might happen afterwards.
Is there precedent? Like, has this? Is there anything famous where this has happened? It's appealed. He lost the appeal, but then later it's reopened because of new evidence or something.
I think there are some very narrow cases. I don't have them to hand, but I'm sure there are some very narrow cases. But either way, the rules are there for it to be possible, because ultimately what our rules do, they try to cater for almost every scenario and every outcome. Albeit there have been there's been at least one occasion where I've been deep into the white book, as we call it, the Civil Procedure Rules book, which is Bible paper and this thick. And I found one very discreet part of it that said, this will never happen. So there's no guidance for it. And I'm like, well, we're here. It's happened. So these things do happen. You do run into these things. So it is possible that you can run into this situation. And this is one of those. This has to be unique in that it's one party is the same. The defendants were different, but the underlying story is the same. But two jurisdictions, one with a judge and one with a jury. This is a unique situation, and the rules cater for that in saying that if to avoid an unjust outcome, the rules permit the reopening of an appeal, even though it's already been refused, i.e. permission to appeal was refused.
Yeah, I mean, it's always it's crazy to me when you go through his verdict, how and especially how certain people read it as if it's definitive when it's just not. It's a lot of opinion on the judge's part and a lot of things he ignored that it just blows my mind that it was so towards Amber. But then one thing that's just important, she says that he found her to SV. That's false. So again, she's always in there using everything she can to twist it into her narrative, when even you'd think her own team, someone would be like, well, you didn't win that one. Let's be careful how we phrase this. No, I don't wonder if the lawyers even did write it. I bet you she did this. There's so much me. I can imagine like the session afterwards where, why didn't one of you tell me to talk about my daughter? It seems like she forgot her. One of you should have warned me. I should have put my daughter in there. Damn it. It just feels very calculated and I don't know. It's just my opinion of it. It was
that's why I think lawyers wrote it. I do think lawyers drafted this, but I think in a lawyer's mind, I think they probably felt this was so far removed from the UK case that it didn't really matter. But actually, when it's so often brought up as she puts it, a vindication, you have to assess it for what it is. And she was not the defendant in that case. she was a third party, therefore she was not subject to the same disclosure rules. And so for me, that statement there is actually quite telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for her to
it's
say
wild.
that she was protected from providing that information.
Well, there you have it. We got lots more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you've subscribed to Black Belt Barrister. I'm just going to clip this portion of the show. We're going to keep talking and get to a couple questions came in for you. We're going to answer those and more. If you don't, are you watching live, you'll see it. But if you're not live, hit that join button, become a member today. Pick a tier. You'll support our coverage. You'll become a Planeteer. So support the channel if you can, and make sure you support our guest, Black Belt Barrister, whether you're watching live or on the replay. There he is at Black Belt Barrister. Fantastic content. You can also find him over on Twitter as well. So go follow him there. Always a pleasure to have him on the show.
My pleasure.
There was a question that came in here. Hold on, let me just write that time code. Oh my goodness. You guys are incredible. I love that we left on a laugh. If you want to see my Amber impression, you're going to want to hit that join button. Can you guys hit that join for me? Become a member. Heck, you can always tip later. Go pick a tier, join, or you can hit the link tree, link, the pinned comment. Send your support for the holidays, Cash App, PayPal, whatever you want to do. The Stream Elements link, there's all ways you can support your creators. It's the holidays. I know we're all dealing with the buying gifts and stuff, but definitely tip your creators a few, if not just me, anybody you're watching, Lewis, Steph, whoever, Kim. Make sure you support your creators this holiday season. And thanks so much for sticking around, watching us, and being here. What an amazing year. We got 2 more shows left this year, and then we got so much more to celebrate next week. So thank you so much for being here and supporting the channel. You guys are amazing. Again, catch the replay if you missed it. Hit that subscribe. Make sure you are subscribed, and stay tuned as we send you over to Lewis, who is live over on Nerd Report. Let's go show Nerd Report some love. Love you guys. See you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. I saw that comment, Disa. You're the drama queen.